Soul Calibur 5 was the next one, and it was probably the highest profile new generation game since Tekken 3, seeing how I feel that the two aren't discussed as such nearly as much. After 5 prior games, Soul Calibur moved its story forward 17 years. As with Tekken 3, barely any of the women returned, and we got a bunch of newcomers using the movesets of previous characters. The story now focused on the two children of Sophitia, who had been the focus of her story since their births between Soul Blade and Soul Calibur 1. Sadly, neither one is worthy of their mother's sacrifice. SC5, unusually for the series, dropped the typical extravagant side modes in favour of a cinematic story mode centred on Patroclus and Hero. Sadly, this mode is one of the worst in the genre. See, the team was given around a year to make the game, and Tekken Tag 2 soaked up a lot of the manpower and focus at the time, then it underperformed in arcades. I've also heard the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami heavily impacted the game's development. As such, around 75% of the narrative had to be axed, and the only possible way this was going to be at all coherent was if what was kept was just the core narrative of the siblings, with cameos by other characters where they could fit. As a result, there's no time to properly introduce or characterise any of the other newcomers, and without the series standard bios either, most fans have no way of knowing anything about these characters, or what the cast, not even the ones that are still here, without either owning the art book or looking on the wikis. One of the biggest losses in that regard surrounds Max's group, which consists of the successors of fan favourites Taki, Keelik and Shampois. They get 2 brief appearances in the story and contribute very little, even in the way of characterisation or background. There is nothing in the game to tell you, for example, that Shiba is Keelik and Shampois' bastard son and the half-brother of his travelling companion Lacia. As a result, the new generation cast feel hollow, they're less interesting copies of their predecessors, different by way of being the total opposite and nothing more, or literally just the same character with the second on the end. The main focus of the story is Patroclus and Pyrrha Alexandra. Patroclus is the primary protagonist, and his sister is the secondary protagonist and later antagonist. After a poor introduction where Patroclus murders civilians because he thinks they're evil monsters because a transparently evil man told him so, he very quickly abandons the sister he spent years searching for because she turned into a monster to protect him. Having your hero start out with flaws is good, but there aren't enough redeeming traits here to endear the audience to him to make them want to see him redeemed. He just keeps making huge mistakes, growing more and more out of hand until only a convenient time travel opportunity in the third act lets him fix them. And he doesn't feel like he's developed at all by the end, aside from accepting his sister, even if she is a malfested. And Pyrrha is just a weak, feeble, easily led young woman whose personality and voice make her effectively a discount single ambassador Koichi, but without the tragic life that made the latter work. Her mother died to save her, then when she tries to save her brother, gets rejected, sad and all, but it feels a bit too sudden to her possessed by Soul Edge. Although this could be a result of the cut story and maybe was supposed to have more build-up, either way she's so weak and needy that it's easy to forget she's a year older, more proactive younger brother. It's to the point that the audience will likely feel pity for her more than feeling bad for her. She really puts the pathetic back in sympathetic. And when Patroclus meets old hero Siegfried, a man who spent years under Soul Edge's storm and became wise because of it, he doesn't serve much of the mentorship role that you'd expect, nor have a reason to fight Patroclus, instead just handing over Soul Calibur to this little twerp because he's a new hero, even if he doesn't deserve it. And, of course, placing Patroclus in a scene with Siegfried that allows us to see how far Siegfried has grown since Soul Blade really highlights Patroclus' development. There are some interesting developments in this game that, unfortunately, are either only explained in bios or only hinted at through certain details, like Keelik becoming a new headmaster, Setsuka training Patroclus between games to explain his second fighting style, Raphael being the new nightmare Graf Dumas, or Cassandra being banished to the short-lived mobile game before showing up in SC6 and disappearing forever. And Zwei was a cool newcomer who actually got a decent amount of screen time and a tragic end. There was potential with this new cast, but the cuts and the lack of other modes to use the cast in gave players little chance to see the ideas being put forth. Was this new generation a success? It took them 6 years to make a sequel, and that game rebooted back to Soul Calibur 1's events. There are connections through alternate timeline stuff like both Cassandra's meeting, but Project Soul really just dropped it. Didn't bring any of their weapons over for newcomers. I think the only thing that survived was Viola's theme returning for Amy's story because they're the same person. I suppose then it's a good thing 5 ended on a relatively conclusive note so that the reboot off too many plot lines. Before it moved on to the full new generation in its 10th installment, Mortal Kombat had hints of this throughout its early history. Sub-Zero was succeeded by his brother in the second game, MK4 introduced Student Kai alongside Kano to replace Jarrett and potentially Fujin to replace the now elder God Raiden. Co-creator John Tobias even planned to make a full new generation game for MK5 starring Son, but the idea was scrapped when he left the company. The subsequent 3D era introduced Sub-Zero's apprentice Frost, who many fans wanted to see join the eventual new generation, and then I recall it being stated that a new generation lost the plan following Armageddon, which would kill off most of the cast and pave the way for a ton of newcomers. The series had a pseudo reboot instead. Ultimately, it was 2015's Mortal Kombat X that introduced a new generation. Of its 9 total newcomers, only 2 don't serve as any sort of successor or replacement. 4 are younger relatives of classic characters. One is the Emperor to replace Shao Kahn. One is the new Gruntalski Lawman. Tribo just has the abilities and colours of all 4 of the previous Cyber Ninjas. What makes MKX's new generation unique is that the core 4 successors, who are the faces of this new generation, actually still have their predecessors around. In particular, the new cast are dealing with a civil war plot, while the old cast are dealing with revenue plots, having the occasional interaction with their successors and acting as mentors. Not as much was done with it as I'd have liked, but it laid the foundation for those characters to be more gradually phased out, making it easier for players to accept, especially if their stories could reach natural conclusions now that they have successors to take over for them. As for the new protagonist, Cassie Cage is alright. Cassie is the daughter of Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, and is probably a better amalgamation of her predecessors than Jin is. Jin, visually, is just a new Kazuya. Very little of Jin's influence is particularly apparent outside of the backstory until he adopted a color scheme in Tekken 4, which he then followed in Tekken 6. And Rock is pretty much all Terry influence. Cassie, she has the soldier aesthetic and blonde hair of her mother, but the general demeanour and flashy style of her father. In gameplay, she borrows more from her father, which fits with her story raised primarily by him, with the gameplay similarities to Sonya Rock, such as having handguns instead of the wrist blaster fixed as a projectile attack to further drive this point home. And something that helps Cassie is that, like early Tekken, MK had also been swapping out the protagonists. Liu Kang was the lead for the first 4 games, then Deadly Alliance had no one in particular, but Kung Lao kinda had that position. Deception had Shujinko, Armageddon had Taven, MK vs DCU and MK9 had Raiden, and then MKX had Cassie. So while her style is as different from as Alex is from you, Kang had been the protagonist since 6 games ago, so it's not too sudden a shift. But she also stands out from the rest by not being a god or a martial artist, which allows her to mark this as a new era for the franchise, but without feeling like as much of a departure as Alex does. They also somewhat sidestep the common issue of new protagonists upstaging the old ones by taking down a threat the classic cast can't by giving her a bloodline technique that gives her an edge. How successful or contrived you may see this, I think it serves its purpose well enough. I'll leave aside how feeble a fighter she is until the climax, because that's a structural issue with NetherRealm games and not something to be held against her. At best, it contributes to an underlying mark about her self-confidence, but that might be me trying to see something that isn't there. But her personality is what makes her stand out most, as the previous heroes of the series are a lot more serious and stoic, typically a martial artist or a god, while Cassie is a more down-to-earth quick character with familial expectations that many might find relatable, giving her decent setup for future stories, even if most of her arc is pretty much over by the end of it. And while Cassie doesn't fight the new Kang in MKX, they do clash in MK11, and it's kind of underwhelming sadly. Which is a shame because the new Kang is a fallen hero character who has just buried the new hero's mother under rubble that leads to her death, so Cassie fighting him should be a huge deal, but it's not. He just goes down like anyone else and escapes off screen. And then she barely interacts with the past version, not even having to apologise for his future self killing her mother. Huge missed opportunities there. So was this new generation successful? As far as general fan response to the newcomers, they were accepted fairly favourably, though I doubt anyone would be fine having them fully replace their parents or mentors, especially with how set in stone most of them are as part of the body series roster. And then the very next game axed all but 3, or 4 of them, and maintained its classic hero roster bias, going so far as to bring past versions of those prior characters to the present to take prominence from their older, more developed counterparts and their successors. Sure, we opened with Cassie Cage's chapter, and she's got an entire B-plot with her past mother, but it feels more like an obligation than anything else, with Raiden and Liu Kang being the main characters again. MK11 is only beaten out as the most violent rejection of the generation by their own series by Soul Calibur, which semi-rebooted to get rid of them. Granted, MK rebooted again at the end of MK11, we're probably not going to get the new generation characters in MK12, maybe MK13 if they're lucky. I mean, it says a lot that half of the generation hero quartet have been less MK games than the Joker from Batman. DC's The Joker is, unironically, more of a series staple than Kojin and Takeda Takahashi, but with the most popular of the 4. I mean, come on! on. So, what can we take away from all of these examples? Well, first, you want to mitigate the roster. While you don't want just a handful of newcomers, that's it. You also don't want to axe the bulk of the cast, especially if the new generation is a literal generation introduced after a lengthy time skip that ages up the classic cast into middle/old age, or kills them off. You need a good balance of old and new characters, and most of the newcomers should have some sort of tie to existing characters that you met to avoid the feeling of disconnection. It can be family, mentor and student, or something as small as Eddie Gordo's family dying because of Kazuya's villainy. These connections can also easily justify gameplay similarities, be they similar playstyles and moves, or outright taking someone else's moveset. Such gameplay successions are more important than more of the old cast you're cutting, and the longer the series has gone on for. But you also don't want the characters to just be carbon copies of old characters. They need something to make them unique. For some, that's just inheriting elements from two characters and seeing how those elements gel together. For others, it's only having the most basic similarities, such as Kung Lao's successor Kung Jin being his cousin who is also a monk with a weapon that can be used in melee or at range. Without fresh ideas, players will ask why the new generation was even bothered with if it's functionally just new designs for the old cast. I would generally advise against the large time skip transition, especially if that would result in, say, all the women over 40 getting the axe no matter how popular or significant they are. MKX is the only one to keep an older woman around with the almost 60-year-old Sonya Blade, and that's just sad. Another takeaway, though hardly practical advice for most series, is to have it happen relatively early. As stated earlier, part of what made Tekken 3's transition between generations so smooth was the fact that it was too early in the series to have many characters that a new entrant would feel dated without. If you wait too long, you risk being torn between alienating a lot of fans by leaving out their favourites, and being too worried about that to give the new cast room to shine. I think, overall, that's everything to take away from the existing new generations. But before we close off, I'd like to discuss one more new generation fighter. Not a game, but a character, and I think you'll find this idea quite interesting. Genfu was introduced in Dead or Alive 1. He had one goal, to make enough money in the DOA tournament to pay for a life-saving operation for his granddaughter. This was the kind of story that could not drag on, as the more times Genfu came back with the same goal, the less credible his story would become. So, DOA 3, he actually managed to get enough money to succeed, saving his granddaughter and retiring from the tournament, which is incredibly rare in fighting games. Thus, the stage was set for a new character to take his place, and so DOA 4 introduced Elliot, Genfu's apprentice. Genfu is still in DOA 4 and 5, so Elliot doesn't use his moveset, although there are obvious similarities. Genfu does still appear in the story to test Elliot's progress, but Elliot has firmly taken Genfu's place in the story, allowing his master to conclude his narrative, not be dragged into some new arc that feels like an unnecessary extension. And with Genfu serving as Elliot's final opponent in DOA 4 and observing him in 5 to test his view, sitting out DOA 6 entirely, we have a very nice passing of the torch storyline between Master and Apprentice, the kind of new versus old setup that most new generations' main stories can't get right. And the success of this highlights how a new generation can actually be done by a little more of a ship of Theseus approach, letting characters retire or at least bow out for a while, successor coming to take their place, maybe with the whole set, maybe not, and eventually having a whole class of fighters that leave the roster feeling radically different from where it all started, but without the pitfalls of trying to do it all at once, as has been tradition for years. Hopefully this is something fighters like Dead or Alive can consider for their long-term plans. I mean, even Elliot was predated by Hitomi being introduced as the new karateka once Hayate switched to his ninja moveset. Even Soul Calibur had a few replacements like this before 5, like Sophitia to Cassandra, Huang to Young-sung, Lelok to Maxi, and Brom to Astaroth. I think this approach is preferable to the stunning new generation because even if your favourites are removed from the roster over time, you'll likely already have another favourite that's been introduced since that you can switch to. But what do you guys think? Are there any more takeaways from those that came before? Did any of them approach the subject better or worse than I believe? Will SF6 be in the future for Street Fighter, or will the results be lukewarm? If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like this fight? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along. Today's recommended video is Soul Calibur 5, What Happened by Master Muscles, which was helpful for getting a few details about the game's rocky development straight.
We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation. Who you think is going to fix all this? You will, because our future is the future. The next greatest generation is now.
Where were you on February 4th, 2012? I was watching an undropped player I had never heard of drop 25 points, leading my Knicks to a win. Jeremy Lin was a no-brainer, and just as important, average NBA player. An Asian American was playing like a star game after game, and Linsanity was the most talked about celebrity in sports. But now, Lin is not playing to even though he's in the NBA, Jeremy Lin has been blacklisted. The guy that waved off Kobe Bryant.
6. Obi pointing, now setting the screen. Shot clock at 2. Lin has to heat. That reads it.
That won the Jupiter Toronto in 2019, Lin said,
I feel like in some ways the NBA is kind of
that players called it coronavirus, and later said that big dreams risk big hearted. After no other team gave him a chance again, he was just dominating in the G League in 2021, yet no one caught. But why? What really happened to Jeremy Lin? I'm gonna outline what exactly went down. The 3 problems throughout his career and the dark secret he has talked about, starting with how everyone ignored him. What is up, dudes? That's Bonus Minds. It's a Mario channel. Kobe Bryant said, if you go back and take a look, his skill level was probably there from the beginning, but no one ever noticed. And that was the first problem in Lin's career. No one saw Lin as a basketball player. But the story isn't new. It's been happening throughout his basketball career, starting from high school. Lin was chosen as California's Player of the Year in 2006 when he led Paul Alto High School to a state championship, a feat that would have easily helped any typical high schooler capture some sort of athletic scholarship, but he didn't get it. And Lin said,
I think the obvious thing is, in my mind, is that I was Asian American, which, is a whole different issue, but I think that was a barrier.
And at Harvard University, he heard more racist slurs than in the NBA. One being, hey, he needs to score sides. But the NBA would be worse for different reasons. Still, when Lin was playing against Cornell, his teammate told his coaches that they were calling Jeremy a evil. It's not in Lin's own words. I didn't say anything because when that stuff happens, I go into turn mode and don't say anything and just internalize everything. Man, this is just sad to hear. Since 2005, there's only been one player drafted Ivy League school, aka the Harvard, Yale, Princeton. So Lin was already invited in love for the bat, not being given fair opportunities, which he should have got in high school, and he didn't get drafted. But that didn't stop him. His first high school and into the Jeremy Lin's first NBA basketball game. 2010. So it's a Lin was a crowd favorite, and he ran with it. It wasn't just the Mavs that were interested in Lin, there was also a couple other teams, including the LA Lakers, who ultimately signed with the Warriors. But even with this excitement, Lin didn't much of a chance. He only played in 29 games, it's a game behind a young Stephen Curry and Monte Ellis. He was more playing in the NBA D-League and then got waived. He signed with the Rockets, but got waived again before the season started. The Knicks gave him his last shot in 2011, but again, more garbage time minutes, no responsibility to continue again from there. Lin's career was coming to an end. That was problem number 2. No one had faith in Lin. In his own words, that was going to be it for me. My agent actually called me for the game and said, if you don't play well, tonight will probably be your last game in the NBA. And the Knicks were struggling, especially without Carmelo. On January 28, 2012, the Knicks would lose, then to reach the lead. They retired in 7 games, but Lin played 20 minutes, scoring 9.6 assists, and maybe that was enough, because Coach Mike D'Antoni was and on February 4th, he would go to Lin off the bench in the first quarter. And by the second, Lin was balling out. He ended the game with 25 points, 7 assists, 5 boards in a win. He might have looked small, but he was big on the court. The next game, he dropped 28 points, 8 assists, and 8 good then dunking on the Wizards playing John Paul in another win. He had all acrobatic finishes, display method, fading jumpers, being clutch.
Ups it up, Chandler keeps it alive. Wayne has to put it up.
The world was losing it. A story of gold. What happened next made Lynn a household. Think the Knicks won the Lakers. When asked about Lynn, Kobe Bryant said,
Where's this kid? Yeah, I've heard about him. Something. I don't know. So I just get my triple notes.
Do you consider guarding him if he's having one of those games?
well, Lynn said, and Lynn comes out firing, jumper after jumper, including this spin layup on its feet again. And Kobe was cooking sugar. You know, the iconic
Fourth quarter. I swear I looked at 12 minutes tomorrow. And now game shot big, off the glass, caught it. I'm like, what you want? Get to the spot, shot big. Spin back on the foot, off the glass. I'm like, what's going on?
While Kobe was going off on Twitter, he was right there with him, and the crowd was going crazy. Everyone watching this live and just losing their mind as long as his favorite teams were winning. And Kobe ended the game with 34 points, 10 boards, Lynn with 28 points, 7 assists, and the win. Kobe knew Lynn was after this game and would eventually become teammates, but we'll get them. Lynn still had an iconic game winner 2 games later against the Raptors. The Knicks won 6 in a row. Yet even during this, there were racist headlines like the armor, Jason Whitlock making an Asian dick joke.
What the hell was that?
And that man's taught here as a national sports analyst, but my last video about how the NBA is messing up just got age restricted and demonetized. This don't even make sense.
That is blasphemous!
But when Carmelo came back from injury, was the same problem concerns. Mike D'Antoni was perhaps the only one who had faith in Lynn and wanted to run the offense than Lynn. Carmelo wanted the ball on the wing, so he started to show less effort at practice and went to the open. Lynn would average 18.5 points, 7.7 assists, but tear his meniscus right before playoffs. He was a restricted free agent, which meant the Knicks could sign him no matter what. And the Knicks owner James Dolan said they would match up. Offer up to $8 billion, but when the Rockets offered him a poison-pill deal, $15 million in the 3rd year backloaded, the Knicks had already fired Mike D'Antoni, Dan Patrick, and insanity was over to match him $2 billion. The Rockets had Yao Ming, now had another Asian household name to be a star. So Lynn had his own team to himself. Right? Wrong. Because even the Rockets didn't have Lynn. 4 days before his season started, they also traded for James Harden and made him the focal point of the offense, leaving Lynn to figure out without the ball in a Harden-dominant offense. It was an awkward pairing, and while Harden got the old green light to go crazy, Lynn struggled. He averaged 13.4 points and 6.1 assists, playing all 8 games. His skill set was being wasted. In fact, Lynn wanted to stay with the Knicks, but they never offered him a contract. 2 years later, the Rockets would trade Lynn in a salary dump to the Lakers. Lynn got his opportunity to play alongside Kobe on a struggling Lakers team. Be part of the practice. We all remember is the time he was made and splashed an off-balance through.
Oh my god.
Practice, and the moment we all remember is the time he famously made Kobe and splashed an off-balance through. And, oh yeah, not fouling. He then played a season for the Hornets in which he got solid minutes and a crazy style.
What the hell?
It was enough to sign a 3-year, $36 million deal with the Nets, and it was exciting. Insanity back in New York. Lynn would have a good start to the season, again, with interesting injuries, they kept playing up some really good games. Starter level production averaging 14.5 points and 5 assists. But next season, Lynn would rupture his patella tendon in the first game and be out for the rest of the season. The Nets trade him to the Hawks, then to the Raptors, but regardless of what could have gone, Lynn was always productive. Certainly more than productive enough to stick around on the roster
Yeah, what's up, bro?
now, it's been years since Lynn was seen in the NBA. But, wow, according to Lynn, he had a bad 12-game stretch with the Raptors in the NBA, gave up on Lynn in his own words. So you gotta think for me, after playing 9 years in the league, I would expect, like, okay, I have a reputation, people know what I can do, but I was pretty surprised at just how fast people were like, okay, he's done. And just like that, Lynn was out of the NBA. Problem number 1 and number 2 still exist even now in the league. Don't view him as a basketball player and have him on such a short leash. He really has to be perfect just to get what he deserves. But all of this is caused by problem number 3, racism, which is related to the dark secret I'm about to walk you through because to Lynn, it caused his wrong run, saying it's so hard when you don't look. You have to do everything right when you don't look. Even then, that might not be enough. There is no room for error. You might think that with Lynn's injury history, maybe some sort of justification, especially when it comes to issues and injuries. He played 7 more games in the last recent season, and he showed everyone that he was something because to get under a contract anywhere, Lin took his talents to the Chinese Basketball Association in August of 2013 and immediately showed that he was still good enough to play in the NBA. And there goes Shogai short games. Well, Lin was living and he dominated, averaging 22 points, 5 points and assists, and rebounds before COVID struck. Then Cliff stood pat and signed a multi-million-dollar extension to continue the CBA for the 2020-21 season. But he rejected that huge deal, knowing that he could use this momentum to get signed in the NBA again. So he got signed to the Warriors G League team for the 2020 season and proved once again that he could at the next level, averaging 19.8 points, 3.2 rebounds, and 6.4 assists with the Santa Cruz Warriors. Literally one of the best players in the G League, but he couldn't escape the stigma that everyone has for him. Another G League player called it coronavirus while they were facing off, literally as the outbreak was still an issue. Lynn felt that he's an NBA player with his performance, but no one called again. Lynn said not the coaches, not the players, not the commissioner, all who he was talking to, no one was willing to pull the trigger. There was a whole HBO documentary on Lynn's sanity, and he still couldn't get any interest from the NBA. If a 40-year-old Joe Johnson got the call from Boston in 2021, why not give Jeremy Lin a shot, especially after he had just proved his worth in the G League? Oh, but that's just one of the barriers Lin was talking about. If you've ever heard how NBA media players think about international players, you've heard xenophobic comments throughout the past couple of years.
Thing about Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets is not good for ratings front.
And that's the NBA's top secret statements that Giannis can never be the face of the league because no one can pronounce his name, calling Jokic a tub of lard, and failing to promote international players to the same extent as quote-unquote homegrown. In fact, the NBA has an obsession for homegrown athletes. He fit that bill, but when he would travel for AAU, he would get called racial slurs because basketball culture isn't accepting of players who don't look like them. Lynn had to continuously break stereotypes about Asians not being good at basketball. And while the NBA capitalized economically on Jeremy Lin and his name, they failed to actually make meaningful steps to get rid of the negative perceptions about Asians. I always try to tell as it is, so subscribe if you want more, especially since YouTube. 1 million subs might be just enough to
In general, once more, I'm not fucking friends with Smug. I've never fucking hung out with Smug like that. You know, Smug hit me up like, yo, can I stay in your hotel room? And I'm like, yo, my nigga, of course I can fucking let you stay in my hotel room. It's all good. But Smug, I'ma get that nigga. But Yipes, you don't have to worry about nothing. You would never have to worry about nothing. Guys, until you say something that will make me really question our friendship, until you say something that's like, you start talking about my mother, you know, you start like getting mad personal or some shit like that. Guys, you would never have nothing to worry about. It's okay. I'm like, okay. Guys, just running his fucking mouth.
No.
What he fucking does best, you know. This motherfucker, he's a commentator now. He's a commentator now. Why didn't I respond to your messages? Because I want to fucking talk to you. That don't mean I want to be a friend. I just want to fucking talk to you. It's that simple. I didn't want to say shit to you. I was like, let me just wait. Let me just let him get all his shit out. Let me let Yipes get everything off his chest. Let me let him say whatever he has to say, and then I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for the perfect time, and this is the perfect time, baby. This is the perfect time right here. Then Yipes, go ahead, running his fucking mouth, saying what the fuck he has to say. My thing is, I'm like, all right, whatever. Say what you gotta say, Yipes. We already three different sequences of you talking some shit. I'm like, all right, still's going on. Fucking, then we see Dan Slip up here, and it's like, yo, Dan Slip talking about how that, like, Dan Slip is fucking better than me and shit like that. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, you think it's better, it is what it is. Dan Slip's doing his work out there. Then, more shit talking. But, you know what really got me? Let's shift away from Yipes real quick. You know what really got me? And this ain't even about Smug, because we'll get to him. Let's address Arturo Sanchez, bro. Let me address Arturo right now. So, Lane Chuck says something along the lines of, yo, like, K-Bad took his loss like a man, you know? K-Bad took his loss. I take all my fucking losses, bro. I lose, I fucking come back. So, what ends up happening, Arturo comes in, and Arturo is like, nah, fuck that. He was crying. He was crying like a Dawson player. He was crying like a Dawson player. And I'm like, Arturo, what the fuck are you even saying right now, bro? They're like, you do understand that me losing or saying that shit, people tune into ESL. The reason the numbers kept getting fucking bigger and bigger every single week, every single fucking episode, is for two reasons. One, because motherfuckers wanted to see me lose. And two, they wanted to see how I would fucking respond. They wanted to see how I would fucking get out. Like, all I say, hey man, I'm an entertainer. You gotta see what he's saying. So, my thing is this. Alright, don't complain about Dawson, bro. You all know, but there's a certain individual, so it's not the kid. So, never took a boss when they take some shit. You know, that sits up there and he wins. He makes it work. He fucks me up. You know, He actually fucks up a lot of people. So don't be coming up in like, oh, you can't pass this. Welcome to my world. This, that, and the third. I gotta take shit. You know, that Filipino ass motherfucker gotta take shit too. And that dude, I don't know, it's like a champ or some shit. You know, a Filipino champ. I think you know him. He gotta take some shit too. And he wins. Wins. So you sit there and you relax, bro. You relax. So that's that. So I don't really understand where Art came from with that. Like, nah, fuck that. This, that, and the third, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, wait, hold up, bro. Fucking relax. Now, then, get my therapy.
Love it.